Okay, guys, this is gonna be a longer video. I did, over the course of several days, I did homebrew a D&D class. Heavily inspired by the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Necromancer playtest, we have the D&D Necromancer class. Not the subclass for wizards, a special Necromancer class. As we can see, a crying woman sobs at the foot of a smirking lady. The lady, an elf, leans down and whispers to the crying one, saying, "Death is not the end for some." And with a wave of her hand, the dead man's body, a few feet away, rises up and begins to move. But this man has a lifeless soul. The Necromancer is a grim battlefield controller capable of wielding necromantic spells to cover the battlefield with their undead thralls. They can decide the best way to use these expendable thralls, whether that's to empower themselves or to cast powerful necromancer spells. Uh, Basically, they create a lot of expendable guys, and then they kill the expendable guys to do the things. Um, why is this necessary in D&D? Or why did we need this as a homebrew? Simply because the Necromancer uh, subclass is very disappointing. You don't actually get to control undead armies, which is what we all want to do as a D&D Necromancer. So now you can be a full-on necromancy and a full-on necromancer and have all the fun of controlling undead armies. Death is as common as life, if not more so. Despite this, death and decay are considered subjects of the macabre, and those willing to dive headfirst into their fascinations they invoke are necromancers. These cult spellcasters seek the ever-changing borders of life and death, manipulating necrotic energy to suit their will. The undead both serve and cower before them. While the necromancer's creations are merely a mockery of life, the undead are keen to serve their creator. Now, no one just... Oh my goodness, my typing. Now, no one just wakes up and says, I want to be a necromancer. So, when creating one, you need to figure out why your character is so fascinated by life, death, and its boundaries. Again, most people aren't just like infatuated with death. That's not like a real common thing. So, your character's a little unique. Run with that. Did they lose their dear loved one that they want back? Do they want to push the edges of what is possible? What is the reasoning for being a necromancer? Skill only goes so far when dealing with the dead. Passion and drive are what carry them the extra mile. It's the spirit within a spellcaster that makes them curious about the flesh. That's when they push the boundaries of life and death to see how far they can go. You can quick build a Necromancer using the following suggestions. First, make Wisdom or Constitution your highest ability score, depending on whether you want to focus on close range kills or ranged assassinations. After that, Constitution or Charisma should be your highest skills. Note, this does not overwrite the Necromancer Wizard subclass, this merely expands upon the Necromancy idea. Class features. As a Necromancer, you gain the following class features. Hit points, 1d6 plus con per Necromancer level, plus your current proficiency bonus. Proficiency bonus is only applied once. So it's if you're at what, like, well, I got the sheet here. If you're at 20th level, your hit points would be 20d6 plus your con modifier plus or it'd be 19d6 plus con plus 6 plus con plus 6 as your proficiency bonus, since it's only applied once. When it for clarification, when it says it's only applied once, that doesn't mean it can increase. So obviously, if you create a first level necromancer, your proficiency bonus is +2. It is a +2 to your health until you reach 5th level, when it becomes a +3 to your health. So it's not like +2, +2, +2, +2. So it's not 2, 4, 6, 8. It's 2. Now it's 3. Now it's 4. Oh, now it's 5. And now it's 6. That's important to know. HP at first level is 6 plus con plus proficiency bonus. They're wizards with a little more beef to them, essentially. Proficiencies: light armor, weapons, Reaper's weapons. A new specific like subsect of weapons for the Necromancer. is Reaper's weapons. Daggers, knives, krisses, and scythes and sickles are all Reaper's weapons. Tools, herbalism kit, saving throw, intelligence and constitution. Skills, you automatically gain proficiency in 3 of the following: Arcana, deception, history, insight, intimidation, medicine, nature, survival. I like to make a crafting skill as a D&D homebrew. It's an intelligence-based skill that artificers become proficient in. It's again something from Pathfinder. I have played Pathfinder and D&D. I much prefer D&D. Pathfinder's too complicated for me. However, crafting as a skill is something that I have run D&D sessions where I needed to have my party roll a crafting check. There was a instance where the party was trying to go through some enchanted forests that had like come to life, and they're like, "Oh, well, we'll all make like ghillie suits essentially, with mud and sticks and leaves, and see if the awakened trees and stuff just don't notice us." And I was like, That's a clever solution. I love this. Let's do this." Um, how do I know if you're successful? Crafting check, which doesn't exist. So, crafting, if your DM is using crafting as a skill, it's an intelligence based skill. Simple enough. Also, you get the Necro language, which is the language of the awakened undead. This allows you to communicate with your undead servant, which you get later on. Again, a homebrew thing that you don't necessarily have to use. You could just do like telepathy, mind communication with your undead servants. But I like to throw in Necrol. Here's the Necromancer table. I'm not going to explain too much about this because thralls will get covered later. We'll reference this table a lot. Here's all the different things you get at the different levels. Obviously, your proficiency bonus scales, your number of thralls active scales, cantrips, all the levels. I will say the spell table is basically just the wizard spell table with a bit less spell slots, and you kind of get things a little later. Like the twos might be delayed by just a little bit compared to the wizard table. Equipment: as a necromancer, you start with the following equipment: chainmail or leather armor, one weeper's weapon of your choice. If it is sickles, you do get 2. And then you either get an explorer's pack or, oh my goodness. Okay. As a necromancer, you start with the following equipment: A, chainmail, or B, leather armor, one reaper's weapon of your choice. If it is sickles, you do get 2. A, an explorer's pack, or B, an herbalism kit. Again, going back to the definition of reaper's weapons: daggers, knives, krisses, scythes, and sickles. Spellcasting, I'm not gonna read all of this. You're a wizard. You spellcast like a wizard, basically. Your spell book. You have a spell book. You use your spell book for spell casting. You can use an arcane focus. Ritual casting is the same for a wizard. You're an intelligence caster. That's key. You're an intelligence caster. Um, you can use an arcane focus. Same thing for wizards for learning spells at first level and higher. Same thing. Grave spells are a separate subsect. It's more of a definition of spells or like a trait of spells that specifically require thralls, so they are unique to Necromancer only. But again, we'll talk about those later. The only difference to note with Necromancer spellcasting, because again, it's basically wizard spellcasting with a couple of changes. One of those changes being obviously the table is different. Another one of those changes being grave spells exist, and those require thralls. And another change is you can't add spells into your spell book by finding them via spell scrolls. You can't copy spells like a wizard can. You learn spells at level up, but you cannot copy spells like a wizard can. So keep that in mind. Um, you can't you can't copy spells from spell scrolls. Thralls. Thralls are important. Most spells require spell components or an arcane focus. Other, more darker spells require a very life essence, key, as the monks call it, from its most natural source, a living creature. But as a necromancer, you're no monster, so you've mastered the art of creating and destroying thralls at your will to meet the needs of your grave spells. Any spell labeled as a grave spell requires a thrall in order to cast, making it a necromancer exclusive spell. At first level, you gain the Create Thrall cantrip. This does not count towards your maximum number of cantrips. Thralls have 1 HP and are considered humanoid. They can be the targets of attack and count for flanking. They automatically fail all saving throws and cannot make any ability checks other than athletics or acrobatics, of which they use your stat for. Unless you have means to move them, they have a speed of 30 feet for the purposes of long distance travel. As a free action, you may dismiss any number of thralls you wish, causing them to disappear from existence. Yeah. Thralls, this is kind of what I imagine them to look like. I did make this in Hero Forge. I had a much better image that I found online, and I cannot find that image again for the life of me. It's very important to know, again, thralls have one hit point. You can dismiss them as a free action, any number of them. Create thrall as a cantrip, and it does not count towards the max cantrips you have. So as you see here, at first level you start it with 2 max cantrips. You pick 2 cantrips, and then in addition you get a third cantrip, which has to be the Create Thrall cantrip. So it's 2, and then you get Create Thrall. Because Create Thrall does not count towards the maximum number of cantrips you have. Thralls themselves do not move or take actions. The DMs watching this are probably sitting here thinking, hey, thralls, that's terrible to have a maximum of, at certain levels, 15 guys on the battlefield. We're not done yet. I'm not done yet. But thralls don't do actions. Thralls themselves do not move or make actions. As a bonus action, you can move an amount of thralls equal to your intelligence modifier up to 30 feet. So it's just a lot of minis on the board, or a lot of thralls in Theater of Mind, but themselves, thralls don't do anything. They're more mindless drones to be expended for your spells, and you can move them around simply so you can get better angles for your spells, but you don't have to. Thralls don't have turns. They don't roll for initiative in combat. So trust me, it's not bad for DM wise. Necromancer speciality. Necromancy is a difficult and taxing practice. In order to become a greater necromancer, those of the undead arts select a speciality to hone their skills. This allows them to focus on one undead sphere and one undead sphere only, accelerating their advancements in the field of necromancy. The following are necromancer spheres, subclasses, of which you can choose one for your character to specialize in upon reaching 2nd level. You can be a Corpiomancer. Corpiomancers specialize in the creation, movement, and puppetry of living bodies. Their studies consist of controlling, manifesting, and mastering flesh from all kinds of creatures. Think of zombies. You can be an Osteomancer. Osteomancers specialize in the strength, dexterity, and nimbleness of the skeletal system. Their studies involve analyzing skeletons and use them as structures of bodies of necromancies. Again, skeletons. You could be a Phantomancer. Phantomancers specialize in the spirit within bodies. They realize that death of the body does not mean death of the mind. Their studies focus on ghosts, spirits, and the ethereal energies tied to life and death. Think of ghosts. Or you could be an Iriomancer. Iriomancers are some of the strongest necromancers there are. Their dedication is poured into the fascination of negative energy. They study wraiths, shadows, and specters as a part of their mastery. Think shadows, wraiths, and specters. It is important to note, again, back to the table, you get your subclass at 2nd level, which is kind of weird, but you get it at 2nd level, because you get an undead servant at 3rd level, which we will cover, and that is entirely based on your subclass. So, undead servant, ladies and gentlemen. Necromancers hardly work alone in the field. They're often seen with their most trustworthy of companions, their undead servants. When you reach 3rd level, you gain the service of an undead servant. Your undead servant takes its turn directly after yours. It has its own stats, HP, attacks, etc. You command it to do whatever you want as a part of its turn. It has a movement and an action just like you would. It does not have a bonus action. It can make attack of opportunities. It does not have. I guess those would count as reactions, so it does have reactions, but that's about the only reaction it can do. What kind of undead servant you have depends upon your necromancer speciality, which is your subclass. Your undead servant is a zombie if you're a corpiomancer, a skeleton if you're an osteomancer, a ghost if you're a phantomancer, and a shadow if you're an iriomancer. The stats for each scale up as shown at the end of each of the subclasses section. We'll go over subclasses in a separate video. Your servant counts for flanking and all of that as well. To gain your undead servant, you must perform an hour-long ritual over a dead body of any amount of decay. Your undead servant is then under your control and at your service. If your undead servant dies, the body withers away into ashes. You must then re-perform this ritual on a new body. Think of it as a familiar, but your familiar gets to do a whole lot more than what wizard familiars get to do. Because it's an undead servant. You can command them to lift objects. You can command them to open doors. You can command them to fight. You can command them to do a lot of things. As a concentration ritual, you can first spend 1 minute to psychically connect to your undead servant. You can then see through their eyes, or where the eyes would be, of your undead servant. This lasts until you take damage, and while you are doing this, you automatically fail dex and strength-based saves. So again, you can see through your familiar at the cost of your actual body's not really doing too much. Inevitable. The other features they get, again, see the table. Other features they get though, inevitable return. Your time spent training in the undead arts has led you to gain a benefit when death is near. You gain the inevitable to return cantrip spell at 5th level. This spell does not count towards your spell's known maximum. It again works like Create Thrall. It does not count towards your max cantrips known. Greater Undead Servant. Your undead companion is now even stronger thanks to your ability to grant it slight necromantic magic. Starting at 9th level, your undead companion's damage is increased. For the skeleton and zombie undead companion, the damage is now ZD6 plus 2, where Z is your intelligence modifier minus 1. For the ghost and shadow undead servant, their damage is now ZD4 plus 2, where Z is your intelligence modifier minus 1. In addition to those things, increase one of your undead servant's ability modifiers by 1 to a maximum of a plus 5. So, stat block wise, if your intelligence is a 16 and that's a plus 3, you increase that by 2 to make it an 18 so that it's a plus 4. That's what that means. And again, undead servant stats will be covered with the subclasses, simply because I like to keep my videos short, so we'll cover those in a separate video. Reaper's Weapon Expertise. You have evolved your melee combat skills with the weapons of a natural Reaper. Starting at 13th level, you now double your proficiency bonus when adding your proficiency bonus to an attack and or damage roll made with a Reaper's Weapon. I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory. Double the proficiency bonus, double the awesomeness. Reap Life, your grip on the flow of life and death has allowed you to find strength in other people's shortcomings. Starting at 17th level, whenever you deliver the killing blow to a target with a melee weapon attack made with a Reaper's Weapon, you gain 2d6 temporary hit points, which last indefinitely. Indefinitely means if you lose them, you're not getting them back, but they don't disappear after a minute or an hour or a long rest or something like that. They're there until they're not. Master of the Undead. At 20th level, you have now become a Master of the Undead monster type. They are at your fingertips as you command hordes of undead into battle. As a bonus action, you may attempt to seize control over undead monster within 60 feet of you. You make a spell attack at a target of 12 plus the monster's CR. On a success, the monster is now friendly towards you, your servant, your thralls, and can take orders from you as part of this and future bonus actions. If no orders are given, or if you or an ally of yours or your thralls or your servant attacks the undead, you use control of it. Thralls cannot attack, as I said earlier. However, thrall attacks are kind of a thing. There are spells which we will then, again, we'll cover, I got a lot here. We got the subclasses. We got spells to cover. The spell list, the spells themselves. We got a lot to cover. Um, there are spells that require the destruction of a thrall, and in which case then the spell comes from the thrall's location, not your location. And so that's what it's referring to when it says a thrall attack. Is it your thrall kind of dies as a part of the spell? Therefore, the spell starts from the thrall's location, not yours. But again, we'll cover all of that later. So, hi, this is editor me. I said in this video a lot that I was going to cover this or cover that in another video. I don't. The videos are long. I don't got time for that. I'm a college kid. I got school to go to. I got classes to do. I want to hang out with my friends. This is just kind of a thing I like to do for fun on the side to share my little slice of D&D experience and homebrew, and I do the stuff in my free time essentially. I don't got enough free time to do the deep dives that are required on this class. So I'm gonna make a slideshow that'll have all this information. It'll have the spells. It'll have the subclasses. I'll even tell you what other classes get some of these new spells that are added, highlighted in yellow. So all the explanation will be on a slideshow that I will put in the link in the description. That'll be for a slideshow just like this, literally copy and pasted, just so that you guys have access to that, so you can read it on your own time. You can do some research. Please, please, please tell me what you think of the class. I want to make homebrew because I like making homebrew. But when I make my homebrew that I know probably will never see the light of day in an actual campaign, I at least want it to be balanced. And making an entire class definitely requires a lot of balancing. And I have yet to test this out at all. Or even, I have yet to have someone else read some of the stuff that I have written here. So, a lot of balancing, a lot of flavor needed adding potentially. So please let me know what you think down below. Changes you would make, uh, questions, comments, concerns, all that stuff. Thank you for watching the video. I know it was kind of a longer one. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me everything. Questions, comments, concerns again down below. Have a wonderful day. Check out the link in the description for all of the information on the D&D 5th edition homebrew Necromancer class. See ya!